Since entering the league in 2017, De'Aaron Fox has been one of the most dynamic and electric young players in basketball, but in 2022 everything came together for Fox. De'Aaron blossomed into one of the league's premier point guards, earning his first ever All-Star nod as well as being selected to the All-NBA third team. It's no mistake that Fox's career year also coincided with the Sacramento Kings ending their 16-season-long playoff drought, with De'Aaron being at the forefront of this historic turnaround. In this video, we're going to take a look at everything Fox provided the Kings this season, from his strengths and his weaknesses to how Sacramento used him and how he managed to fit within the system. So without further ado, let's hop into the film room. Fox remains as dynamic as ever in the open court, still operating as the engine of a high-octane offense and pushing the pace with ease. No single defender in a backpedal is ever going to stand a chance against De'Aaron when he has a full head of steam. Fox recognizes these semi-transition opportunities, and the moment he sees an empty paint, he's off to the races. This is 5 out, an early offense where De'Aaron has the freedom to go one-on-one, and Jared Vanderbilt is helpless against this explosive crossover. That burst is still second to none in the league, in which Fox reaches his top gear perhaps quicker than any basketball player I've ever seen. Look at this acceleration, and again, it's De'Aaron detecting these driving opportunities. No blazer below the free throw line is just inviting Fox to get to where he wants. And he'll freeze defenders with setup moves to intensify his burst. Here hitting Josh Hart with an in and out cross before detonating to the basket, but look at the body control Fox has in the air, taking the contact, and it's actually the defender that gets sent to the ground after the finish. De'Aaron's added strength throughout the years has made him an incredible contact finisher, with the hang time and balance to withstand bumps in the air, and he isn't thrown off stride when he's met in the paint. Other times he'll take these bumps on the ground, taking an extra step towards the rim, causing defenders to lose balance and creating space for De'Aaron to pull back into these fall-away finishes. These finishing numbers are just nuts. He shoots above 76% at the rim, which is in the 95th percentile of all players, and he does so standing at just 6'3". He's also in just a 2nd percentile of rim shot quality, only further adding to the perplexity of these numbers. So rightfully, Basketball Index views Fox as top of the league in terms of rim shot making and finishing talent. Fox can penetrate these narrow gaps as driving lanes, navigating tight spaces between defenders, and maintaining ball control. He splits defenders while protecting the ball and isn't deterred by stunting help defenders. Here he's picking up the ball near the free throw line to shield off the gap help from Jimmy Butler, and putting his body into Caleb Martin, jump stopping and elevating for a soft finish off 2 feet, but it's this kind of dexterity at the basket that impresses me. De'Aaron's finishing package and counters near the basket are endless. Here he's going up without getting any depth towards the basket and has to resort to a running hook type of finish. But he has the same level of control while going full speed and utilizes reverses and double clutch finishes as well. This ability to adjust mid-flight is incredible, here planting off 2 feet going right only to audible in the air back to a left-handed lay. Fox loves to plant and launch himself off 2 feet, which gives him more flexibility to display this craft around the basket off the ground. Here finishing with his right hand, which has been an area of massive growth from De'Aaron. He's more comfortable and confident going right now, slithering these finishes in at difficult angles and with finesse. Here he's scooping this one high off the window to avoid the trailing shot blocker. De'Aaron leverages that explosive speed to make him quite the ultimate change of pace weapon. When that first drive is cut off and funneled in to help defenders, he can come to a complete stop and change direction, rerouting away from the help. The threat of Fox's drive makes his setup moves more lethal than ever, here selling right with this in and out dribble just to attack with his strong hand instead. Sometimes all Fox needs is an explosive crossover to get his defender off balance and get that extra step that he needs. Layering these moves on top of each other is almost a cheat code for Fox, and he navigates through this traffic so well. Watch how he keeps the ball low when he's splitting defenders, and he's strong enough to take any contact on his route to the basket. But Fox is very nifty here, and he knows when to bring the ball over the top instead, letting him get to his strong hand here and still protecting the ball while doing so. He changes strides in the open court constantly to keep defenders on edge, starting on the left side, getting to his right, then elevating and adjusting back to his left in the air. The way he stretches his arms and keeps the ball low in these drives makes Fox a magnet to draw fouls on reach-ins, but Fox looks to finish through the contact in these situations rather than selling out and purely looking for free throws. De'Aaron's craft around the basket is incredible, being able to improvise on these contested and unorthodox finishes, contorting his body mid-flight to do so. He loves the spin move, and it's another weapon he uses to split defenders, but he also has the control to fake these finishes like a young Rondo, and pivot back to his left once the defender leaves their feet. In transition, Fox is electric with his Euro step. Defenders have no choice but to sell out to stop Fox's initial attack, only for him to pull back and watch as you fly by. Fox has become a magician at snaking pick and rolls, utilizing that swift change of direction to force big men into flipping their hips. Watch how he fakes the snake back to his left, shows the ball and Euros to his right, then finds a way to get this funky finish to fall with the wrong hand. And De'Aaron's a very patient operator out of the pick and roll nowadays, weaving through the lane and picking his spots with pace. He looks for the soft spot of defenses and has turned into a master of the floater. Fox is a maestro at dropping these soft runners in against any team in drop coverage, but also gets great elevation on these floaters. Some of them almost resemble jump shots with their form. Even when driving right, Fox can knock these runners down in traffic with his left hand, making him a threat to attack in any direction with a variety of different counters. The rim pressure De'Aaron applies also really helps him open up these looks, with big men oftentimes in drastic drops looking to meet Fox at the basket. This creates a lot of uncontested floaters, and Fox is nearly automatic with these shots. To maximize De'Aaron's driving ability, the Kings love to give him double gaps to attack, where they overload the weak side of the court and give Fox all of this space to be able to operate out of. Now Fox has the ability to drive to his left side, where the only help defender is in a no-help position in the strong side corner. Fox has also been more active than ever off ball. I love this stampede action where he gets a full head of steam going prior to the catch and he leaves his man in the dust. With Sacramento's offense revolving around Sabonis as a processor in the high post, Fox was able to generate some of his offense just playing off of him. He knew how to cut or curl off the team's split action when teams would overplay him on the perimeter. This is a pin down that Fox can curl off of to get downhill early and off ball, making his job just a little bit easier. And look at the team's spacing here playing 5 out, freeing Fox to set up and recognize the chance to slip backdoor here. Empty side actions for De'Aaron would give him opportunities to attack baseline, where Sacramento spacing made it tough for help defenders to be set up in the paint. So now he has all this open space to waltz right into the cup. Early offense out of the empty side would often consist of side pick and rolls for Fox and Sabonis, and watch how these Domas screens would take Fox's defender out of the play. Once De'Aaron gets into the paint with that defender trailing him, you may as already count the bucket. The Kings could also get creative with their offense to set up these actions. Here Fox is setting up that initial pin down for Monk, then twirls around off that Sabonis DHO after getting the favorable switch. This time Fox uses Sabonis' inside position as a screen, and even though the backline help is there at the basket, Marcus Morris isn't going to be much of a deterrent for Fox. There's similar structure in this play, except this time Fox rejects that Sabonis screen and gets downhill too quick for the help to arrive on time. And De'Aaron is excellent at rejecting screens, and these are the situations where you'll usually see his more explosive takes to the basket. Sacramento also ran a lot of Spain pick and roll as one of the counters in their base offense. Here it's that back pick from Harrison Barnes that causes a miscommunication from the defense and clears the runway for Fox. But when teams switch this action on the back end, now there's a much smaller defender in the paint, and Damian Lee is not going to offer much resistance down low for Fox. Fox's inside scoring ability was complemented by his mid-range game, where he shot 47% this season. He's become a lot more jump shot reliant over the years than people may realize. Only 17% of his attempts came from within 3 feet this season, a large drop off from the 31% during his 2020 campaign. Yet despite taking fewer shots inside than ever, Fox's efficiency skyrocketed this year, with his mid-range scoring prowess carrying the load. That ability to snake pick and rolls was huge for Fox in the mid-range game. He'll come off these screens to his left, then snake back to the right elbow where he's as automatic as it gets. But he can do this going to the opposite side as well. When snaking left, he likes to rise up for these slight faders in the lane, and his off-balance shot making is just on another level. He'll come off these picks tight enough to lock defenders on his hip, then patiently pick and navigate his spots before elevating and hitting jumpers. Watch how he uses Josh Hart's momentum against him, leading him inside then stepping back to create space and an open look. This mid-range mastery goes beyond the pick and roll game though, as De'Aaron has some elite footwork and just tough shot making talent. If that wasn't filthy enough, how about a little dream shake action, and yeah, good luck stopping that. Fox's mid-range dominance is what elevated his game during crunch time as well. De'Aaron led the league in both clutch field goals made and attempted, and did so while improving his efficiency. Of all players who took at least 70 shots in the clutch this season, Fox was the first in percentage among the 21 qualifying players. This combination of volume and efficiency is unreal. De'Aaron is a manipulator of the game down the stretch, and he loves to use these ghost screens to hunt for switches and give himself favorable matchups. Any 2-for-1, end of quarter, or late game situation, Fox resorts to this action to set himself up for ISOs. Here he gets a smaller and weaker defender in Jordan Poole on him, gets into the paint, and this is a much easier opponent for Fox to shoot over. He's hunting Lauri Markkanen at the end of the game here, and if he's going to press this much up against Fox, that's going to guarantee a straight line drive, and De'Aaron goes before the double team comes. These ghost screens can also occasionally cause miscommunications. Here Westbrook is anticipating a switch, but Austin Reeves stays attached to Herter, and Fox can just walk his way into a floater. Though he was hyper efficient on the season, Fox did tend to settle for these jumpers a bit too often. Look at how drastically some teams gap him off ball, with Torrey Craig stationed at the nail, helping off a solid shooter in Harrison Barnes. Teams would load these one pass away gaps against Fox to take away driving lanes, understanding the tension that he puts on a defense with his rim pressure. Sometimes the better play for De'Aaron would be to drive and kick, but it's still hard to argue with his process because of the efficiency that he showed. Watch how Dallas preloads that backline help here, with Dwight Powell camped in the paint and not even worried about Sabonis on the perimeter, and Josh Green's on the weak side with both feet in the paint as well. A lot of times those gap defenders are really just looking to stunt, and I love Fox anticipating that on this play. Instead of making that kick out pass, Fox can fake it here, understanding Mike Conley is just stunting and recovering, and now he has a wide open free throw line jumper. Fox's 3-ball continues to be the largest deficiency of his offensive game, though both his efficiency and volume increased from the previous season. On 5 attempts per game this year, De'Aaron shot just above 32% from beyond the arc. The 119 total makes on the season was a career high for Fox, as well as a 78% clip from the foul line. All of these are signs of progression as a shooter and should bode well for his career going forward. But shooting just 34% off the catch is worrisome, however, and the 33% mark on wide open threes leaves room for worry as well. De'Aaron's upper body mechanics have always been fluid. He keeps his left elbow in and aligned with the basket, and when he's set properly, his attempts are on target more times than not. His balance is a bit inconsistent though, sometimes leaning in on these shots. Watch the fluidity in his motion here, generating a lot of power from his base with a noticeable dip. This is when he's most comfortable. But he's not always steady in creating this power from his lower half. With these more slight dips, he isn't nearly as accurate of a marksman. Fox's playmaking duties came as a byproduct of advantage creation and rim pressure he applied to defenses. Again, look at the strong overhelp from these gap defenders off of shooters to free up looks for kickouts. De'Aaron's drives to the basket would pull in several perimeter defenders, freeing him up to spray these out to shooters when he doesn't have space for an attempt. Watch how much attention he draws here. 3 players are pulled into the paint, and Fox whips this pass around them for an open corner look. He's of course deadly in transition where defenses aren't quite set yet, and he loves to find trailers here as well. This ability to break down a defense also allowed for Fox to easily find cutters and bigs near the basket, which was a very simple reactionary read for De'Aaron. Commit to Fox on these drives, and he can drop off dimes in his line of sight. I love some of these baseline cuts from teammates out of the pick and roll. Here Fox is getting downhill, which draws attention from basically every defender, and Terrence Davis exploits this with the backdoor. When he rejects screens, he can elongate his dribble and open up these more advanced reads, making these skip passes that aren't always the first option. Fox still tends to miss a bit of reads though. Here when Bam helps off the strong side corner, this should trigger an auto kick out to Keegan, but instead Fox forces it at the basket. He also doesn't make these skip passes or passes to lifting teammates as often as I'd like. These are more difficult reads to make and oftentimes in De'Aaron's blind spot, but he needs to trust his feel in these spots a little bit more. When the Kings run their zoom action for Fox though, he's much more willing to make this skip pass, knowing he'll have a teammate on that weak side wing. Sacramento Spain pick and roll here allows Fox to engage multiple defenders, then pivot this pass back to deadly shooters. I do think he's a bit robotic operating out of Spain though, where he predetermines making that spray out pass back to the shooter even when it's not there. But De'Aaron has really evolved as the initiator and operator of the offense, being able to make sufficient decisions from a standstill position and without having to break down a defense. He'll recognize these cuts and overplays and lead his teammates to spots with these passes. I love here how he detects an early opportunity for kicking his slip to the basket, leading him with his pass and the inside position that he had. Even when Fox isn't exploding in transition like he usually does, he keeps his head up and looks for rim runners and cutters. De'Aaron does have a bad habit of forcing some of these leak out passes, not seeing defenders who have a chance to make a break on the ball. Fox also struggles a bit with his handle at times, usually when accelerating to top gear in attack mode. Occasional turnover issues will always be a side effect of this lightning quick pace that De'Aaron plays at. His aren't reckless enough to really worry about. The defensive side of the floor is perhaps where Fox experienced the most growth this past season. He's always had the physical tools to defend at a high level, but there was just a different level of buy-in this past year that we hadn't seen out of De'Aaron. Fox can move laterally with the best of them, beating players to spots, and I love how he uses his chest to cut off these drives and avoid fouling. His motor was at an all-time high, here staying connected on multiple changes of direction and containing each drive. He puts the effort in to slide stride for stride with players, where his nimble feet and added strength give him the ability to absorb some of these bumps without losing his footing. Fox can cut off this initial drive here, but then realigns his hips to help funnel Shea away from the basket on the redirection. This is incredible footwork here to backpedal, take a push off to the chest, then change direction and propel himself back into the play. De'Aaron will even ramp this pressure up later in games, harassing ball handlers the moment they cross half court. When he's locked in on these assignments is when Fox's ball hawk ability really shows out. He's a good pickpocketer at the point of attack with these quick twitch and always active hands. That added strength that I keep touching on has made Fox somewhat of a versatile weapon defensively, being sturdy enough to hang with bigger wings and combats players in the post. Here he does a phenomenal job at hounding and swarming Paul George. He gets a great contest as well, but sometimes the height limitations are just going to be too much. Talking about that increased activity, the second and third efforts on some of these plays are exciting to see. That initial gamble comes up empty, but Fox stays in the play and erases this shot from behind. And when the loose ball goes back to Tyler Hero, De'Aaron keeps that defensive intensity and sells his push off for an offensive foul. Fox's engagement off ball as a team defender was there as well. In Sacramento's defense, guards often have low man duties in pick and roll coverage, and De'Aaron could detect these actions early and arrive at his low man spot on time. He even showed glimpses of being a 6'3" rim protector, here being the second defender thrown at Paul George, but coming over from the weak side once the ball is reversed to meet Norman Powell at the basket. De'Aaron really excelled in all of his weak side duties for the most part. This attention to what's happening on ball made him more aware and prepared to X out on these closeouts when necessary, and at least take away that first option. Fox was more vocal ever as a communicator. Here in Sacramento zone, he has to shade that baseline help against Kyrie before retreating back to his original side. But watch him signal and call out this cutter for Kevin Huerter to help force a shot clock violation. De'Aaron has always had good instincts off ball, and he's developed into a smart risk taker. This breakaway speed makes him disruptive in passing lanes, as well as with ball hawking hands I've already mentioned. The biggest deficiency in Fox's defensive game continues to be his screen navigation. Despite having a high volume of point of attack reps, his awareness and preparation of screens just aren't great. Fox doesn't detect these screeners early enough, which makes them much more effective against him. His focus is solely on the ball handler, which will lead him into picks and chip him out of plays. But when Fox does recognize these screens, he doesn't prioritize getting skinny to fight through them. Instead, he's looking to avoid making contact and tries to shoot around these picks. This forces him to have to cover more ground and makes recovery that much more difficult. When he's shooting over and around screens, he turns himself to a trailer of the play and puts more pressure on the rest of the defense. The other area of struggle for Fox on defense has been with his closeouts. Despite his engagement off ball, he isn't always low and in an athletic position, which makes the transition to closeout that much more challenging. Some of these efforts are half-hearted attempts altogether, but it's hard to keep that motor so high with the overall workload that he has. He's also always been a bit jumpy on the perimeter, flying by on a lot of these closeouts, and especially when presented with a shot fake. You never want to leave your feet unless necessary, and De'Aaron has always struggled with some of his discipline on the perimeter. De'Aaron Fox established himself as an All-NBA level talent this past season and is a true budding superstar. His on-court impact holds even more weight than his stats do, at least in my opinion, and perhaps the only thing holding him back from reaching that truly elite status is his own aggression. De'Aaron's blend of mid-range prowess and finishing talent make him a unique talent at the point guard position, and his buy-in defensively officially converted Fox into a very impactful two-way player. Anyways, thank you guys as always for sticking around and supporting the channel. I'll continue to post these season reviews throughout the offseason, so be on the lookout. But until then, take care and see you all next time.